Hey all. So today I want to tell you about the story about how I built the Mom-inator. So over the past year, I've been building a custom gaming computer because I want to play PC games. And because it's my first PC build, I gotta have some RGB in it because I like the pretty colors. So I get some components that are, extra RGB. A little bit extra price, but that's fine. And some of them include the Landcool 2X, the original one that has the uh, front that allows you to change, like you can change the various colors of it. Cooler Master RGB liquid cooler, some extra Cooler Master RGB fans to go with those, and then some RGB G Scale RAM. And I synced them all together using MSI Mystic Light, make it look really pretty. Well, one time when I was, playing video games, my mom walked in and saw the computer and really, really liked the pretty RGB fans and was like, I want a rainbow computer. The other thing you need to know about my mom is she really likes the color pink. So she also said, hey, I want a pretty pink computer with some rainbow fans. And she kind of said it in a joking manner. And for some background knowledge, we as a family do have a Dell Optiplex that I have repurposed into like a kind of a cheap gaming computer. And the primary use of that is actually my grandma, who is an epic gamer and absolutely destroys everyone else in Facebook games like Gummy Drop Match. She is a force to be reckoned with. And also my brother use it for sometimes for school or sometimes for playing games. And after that conversation, I'm like, hey, why don't I look up what kind of pink cases there are? And eventually, I found it. I found the Dark Flash DLM 21 pink case. Now, I had seen this case before, but the 21 had that perforated front and a tempered glass side window. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, you know what? What if, what if mom really does want a computer? So I went to work, just absolutely trying to craft the perfect computer for my mom. Now, speccing out this PC was a bit different for me, as normally I would be speccing out a PC for PC gaming primarily, but this was the first time that I wouldn't be doing that. I'm just doing a regular desktop PC. That the only main caveats is that can it web browse? Can it be used for working at home, which isn't a huge task. My mom isn't doing any rendering or like simulations and stuff, just mainly spreadsheets. And then that can it, have a bit of storage for storing files. So she doesn't need like top end specs, or she doesn't even need a discrete GPU. And so with that information, I ended up coming up with this list. Now, obviously, for the computer case, I went with the pink variant of the Dark Flash DLM 21 Micro ATX case. It primarily because it checked all the boxes. It was pink. It had really good airflow because of the perforated front, and it also had lots of fan mounts. Specifically, it had one in the back, two up on top, and then three up in front. And also, it was very cheap on sale for $55. For the CPU, I ended up choosing the Intel Core i5 9400. And this is for many reasons. The first and biggest reason is that since we're not using the discrete GPU, we need integrated graphics. Now, because of that need, that rules out almost all the AMD Ryzen CPUs. And even the ones with integrated graphics, their APUs, you either can't get your hands on them with the 4000G or GE series, or the ones that are actually sold on, retailers like um, Amazon or Newegg. They're either extremely overpriced or they're not as powerful as the i5 9400, but at, and they're at more ridiculous prices. Now, the other reason why I chose that one and not like, let's say, the i3 9100 is that the i5 9400 was on sale for $150, which was a really good price. Like, even like everyone talked about the Ryzen 3600 being under $200 as a bargain. Well, this was even more of a bargain, and it didn't really trickle down to the i3 9100, as that one was about like 100 like $40. So it's still a much better deal to have the i5 9400 at 150, which is why I chose it. And the motherboard. Oh, the motherboard. So originally, I bought a refurbished Gigabyte B365M DS3H Wi-Fi from eBay because it was 20 bucks cheaper than the listed, like the brand new price. But it ended up not really working well because it had some funky BIOS on it, and also it didn't come with some of the required stuff like the backplate or the SATA cables or the Wi-Fi antenna. So I ended up just returning it and going with an MSI B365M Pro VH, which, I mean, it was on sale. It's micro ATX, which fits in the case, and it has all the stuff that I needed for the computer. The RAM was a bit tricky to pick out. Originally, I had selected a pair of Aegis 2x4 gigabyte DDR 2666. But then I ended up seeing that there's a pair of Oloy 16 gigabytes DDR4 3000 RAM for 50 bucks, which was about like $5 to $10 more than a lot of the 8 gigabyte sets. So I thought, might as well just get 16 gigabytes. And for since Intel doesn't need particularly fast RAM, DDR4 3000 is perfectly fine for it. The SSD was very easy because Newegg had a promotion where they had the Intel 665p 1 terabyte model on sale for 80 bucks. So I picked that. The power supply was pretty easy too because I just wanted to find a like 450 watt decent power supply from a reputable brand, and I ended up settling on the Gigabyte GP 450 PV 450 watt because it was 450 watts, 80 plus bronze. Gigabyte's a reputable power supply seller, and it was on sale for 40 bucks. And for the plate resistance, I know I had to pick out some really good RGB fans. And after lots and lots of video watching and research, I ended up settling with the Uphere T7 SYC7 6 pack of RGB fans. And I ended up settling on them because it was 6 fans for $47. They're PWM controlled, so they aren't that loud, and they have a hub that comes with the fans that is standard PWM and 3-pin ARGB connectors that you can connect all the fans to. And it also on that hub has a switch where you can manually control the fan modes, whether it's like regular or like breathing or like rainbow or various other effects. And for my use case, I'm just going to leave it on rainbow because that's what my mom wants. And also because this MSI B365M Pro VH motherboard doesn't have Wi-Fi on it, I ended up finding a $10 USB Wi-Fi antenna that I just stuck to the back of it so that it could have Wi-Fi. Now, this computer took quite a while to set up because of some issues with the motherboard and the SSD during Windows installation. But after just a standard clear CMOS by taking out the CMOS battery and then putting it back in after a while, Windows installed perfectly fine and it got up and running. And then I went into the BIOS and set the fans to PWM mode, and after doing that, they run extremely quiet, even though they're cheap RGB fans. And also, since the processor is a 9400 non-K and that there's tons of airflow from the 6 fan, the stock Intel cooler keeps the processor very cool even during intensive workloads. Now, overall, this PC cost about $550 for all the parts, and I was very impressed with what I was able to get for that price. And my mom absolutely loves the computer, and I'm very glad because it will serve her well for many years, as the CPU and RAM are, I mean, pretty overkill. And the case has and the motherboard have plenty of availability for, adding an extra hard drive or an SSD for extra storage later if she goes through the 920 gigabytes left on that SSD. Um, I'm overall extremely happy with the build, and I hope all of you watching can see that even parents or other non tech savvy folk can enjoy the features of a custom built PC. And I want to thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you all have an excellent day.